I'd like to speak a bit today about something which, if I was saying this in Thailand, I could well be liable for 15 years behind bars simply for making this video. That issue is about Lese Majeste. Now, if anyone's unfamiliar with this, Lese Majeste, it's an old French word meaning I can't sort of translate the exact translation, but it basically means insulting the monarchy. Now, Thailand is a monarchy, one of the world's oldest monarchies, in fact, with a dynastic line going back over 1,000 years. The current king of Thailand is Rama IV, also known as King Bumblebee. I should say at this stage, my pronunciation of Thai names may not be great, so apologies for that if I'm not pronouncing names very well. But anyway, I'd like to speak about this law because it's incredible, and it's really not that widely reported in the media. I think in the last 2 years I've seen one report on the situation, and yet I believe this is a gross attack on human rights. Now, basically, this law, which in the Thai legislature comes under Article 112, is designed to protect the royal family, that is the king and his heirs, the whole royal family, from perceived insults to their name. And it's designed to protect them from harm. It's even been described as protecting national security, which is bizarre. But anyway, this law certainly has a history in European countries. It had a history in France up until at least Louis XIV. It has a history in Britain up until the early 18th century. It sort of faded out after William and Mary. So it has a history in European monarchies. And we know in the world today there are still a few absolute monarchies still left. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Morocco, and they are by definition absolute monarchies. Where Thailand stands out is it's not technically an absolute monarchy, it's a constitutional monarchy and has been since 1932. However, that is in name only, because the reality is this is a situation which very much resembles an absolute monarchy. Now, in every other sense, the King of Thailand is like most other royals. He has very little political power. The actual system is not dissimilar to the system in the UK, where I'm speaking from. And actually, that's part of the reason why perhaps I take an interest in this, because the Thailand, like Britain, is a parliamentary monarchy. So there is some similarities. However, where we have a major differentiation is in freedom of speech. In Thailand, that is a major issue. Now, this is peculiar because Thailand is actually a democratic country, albeit a flawed one, a very flawed one that's had its fair share of political crises. We know recently there's been the sort of scuffles between the red shirts and the yellow shirts, sometimes very violent. In 2010, almost 100 people were killed in political violence in Thailand, that sort of political violence. And the country has been a sort of political gridlock for years. The current Prime Minister, Yingluck Shinawatra, many people have accused her of being nothing more than a puppet for her older brother. Whether that's true or not, I'm not so sure. Anyway, I'm not making this video so much to comment on the specific political situation, and I'm not sympathetic to either the red shirts or the yellow shirts. Just so if anyone's wondering about that, I'm not actually sympathetic to either side, because I don't know enough about either side. I do speculate that the yellow shirts are more sycophantic royalists, but other than that, I really don't know enough about both sides to comment in detail about that. And people will be familiar with that because, Thailand's a country that receives a lot of tourists. It's a very beautiful country. It's sort of being immortalised by films like The Beach, and it's really, it's a country I'd love to visit in all honesty. I think it's a beautiful country. I'm fascinated by Thai culture. I really respect Thai culture actually in terms of Buddhism, etc. I respect a lot of aspects of Thai culture, and it's a beautiful country. But I have absolutely no respect for Article 112. Let's be clear about this. Article 112 basically enables Thai police, so-called royal police, to arrest anyone suspected of violating lese majeste. This isn't even people who have actually done it. This is anyone suspected of it. And this is a very dangerous situation because with the current political divisions in Thailand, and it is a very polarized society right now between yellow shirts and red shirts, all it takes is an argument with a neighbour for someone to have a vendetta and accuse the other of lese majeste. You know, and Thai politicians have accused each other of lese majeste. This, in Thailand, it's the worst thing to be accused of, is lese majeste. And this is really, really bizarre that this is still being used in a democracy in the 21st century. It's, and I do say Thailand's a democracy because this is a country that actually has dozens of independent newspapers. Many of them are critical of the government, and the government's openly criticised, so there's no issue there. And there is various different political parties operating. So in that sense, it is a democracy. But it's a very flawed one because a democracy that does not value freedom of expression is definitely one that can be called into question. And you know, Westerners have fallen foul of this, or I should say outsiders have fallen foul of this before. A while back there was an Australian writer, Harry Nicolaides, was in prison for a few months because of a book that was critical of the king. I think the book was called The King Never Smiles. And there's been other Westerners. I think there was a Swiss citizen arrested for a rather stupid act when he was drunk. But you know, Westerners get off lightly compared to Thais, and that's saying something. Because our Thais, there was a young girl who, because she did not stand during a salute at the start of a cinema, at the start of a film in the cinema, apparently it's a tradition to stand and salute the royal family. Because she refused to do that, she has been charged with lese majeste, and that was a few years ago. I didn't quite follow up that case, but 15 years. 15 years in a Thai prison. And if you've ever seen Thai prisons, you'll see they are overcrowded, dirty, very rigid regimes. 15 years of someone's life stolen for having an opinion. There was another example, a website owner called Chiranuch Premchaiporn. I may be pronouncing her name wrong, but she was a website owner, I understand. Now, because someone got onto her system and came out with anti-royal slogans on her system, she was accused of lese majeste, even though she herself had not made the comments. But because they had been on her system, even though she deleted them immediately, she was accused of lese majeste. This is the sort of thing you would expect in a one-party regime, you know, under a one-party dictatorship. But when you're talking about a multi-party republic like Thailand, a multi-party system like Thailand, and I really think Thailand should be named and shamed for this. I think we should have some sort of international pressure put on the Thai authorities to change this barbaric notion that you know, lese majeste is just bizarre. It's bizarre, it's barbaric. Now I am well aware that the king is highly respected in Thailand, but here's the thing, the king himself, he has himself said he's a human being, he's not above criticism. Okay? And at the moment the situation's quite critical because the king is, he's 86 now, he's very unwell, I believe he's been in a coma for some time. And so there's a lot of speculation as to what exactly is going to happen when he passes away. For Thai people watching this video, I've nothing much against the king. I do think it's a striking paradox that he's one of the world's wealthiest monarchs, whilst many Thais live in abject poverty. But that aside, I've nothing particularly against the king. Some people say he murdered his brother and so on. I honestly don't know enough about Thai royal history to say what I think of that. What I will say is I think lese majeste is barbaric. And if you're sitting there trying to condone it, you just can't. You just can't justify jailing someone for having an opinion. That's barbaric. And these aren't even extremist views. These aren't like sort of people glorifying terrorism or something. These aren't people calling for threats against the monarchy. This is simply people who have been perceived to threaten the monarchy through so-called insults. And it's just, Thailand should be ashamed of itself for instilling these laws. And it isn't the royal family that's doing it, so I don't blame them. It's populist Thai politicians. Now, Yingluck Shinawatra said she was going to be a reformer, and I have to say I'm very disappointed with her. She may be very pretty, as world leaders go. She's an attractive woman, but you know what they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because deep down is a woman who is trampling human rights. And I know not all power is in her hands, but when her deputy prime minister spoke about instilling a war room to deal with Lese Majeste offences, you'd think Thailand has bigger issues to deal with. This is a country that deals with natural disasters, has deep political divisions, is dealing with poverty in many areas. You'd think, and in the south there's an Islamist insurgency. You'd think they are bigger priorities than Lese Majeste. It's just bizarre. I've written petitions to the Thai embassy in London. I got no reply. The situation depresses and angers me because there's just no justification for jailing people for having a point of view. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights clearly states that freedom of peaceful expression is a fundamental human right. Thailand is trampling that. And this is not about being for or against the royal family. You can still be, Britain, and I do make this parallel, the United Kingdom is a monarchist country. We have a royal family. And most people actually do support the monarchy. I'd say something like 65 to 70%. And yet others, we have freedom of expression. People are allowed to challenge the royal family. They're allowed to even mock them, make satire of them and so on. And it frequently happens. Now, in Britain, those Republicans are not dragged away and held in prison for 15 years. So the idea that you need that law to keep Thailand stable is just rubbish. The king himself has said he's not above criticism. And the king, whenever, international visitors have done something foolish and been arrested on Lese Majeste charges, he has always pardoned them. And he's laughed it off. He doesn't care about being insulted. But these sycophants, these royal police, I understand in parts of Thailand, education is, people do not have the education to understand issues like human rights. So there are parts of Thailand where people really don't know any better. But those educated Thai politicians who do know about the sort of legislation, human rights legislation, they should be ashamed of themselves. And for those educated Thais who travel around the world and defend this hideous law, shame on you. I mean, what the hell? This is, it's just barbaric. 15 years? You're going to steal someone's life for 15 years for having a point of view? And I'd love to go to Thailand. I'd love to visit the country, but I'd find it hard to be, of course, to keep my mouth shut, but I just think it's awful that this is happening, and I do think this issue is being ignored by the world, and it's one of the most glaring violations of human rights going on right now. I would also point out it's an irony that just as Burma seems to be getting better, Burma was always the brutal dictatorship of the region, but just as Burma seems to be getting better, marginally better, we can't be complacent about that situation, but it is getting better, Thailand seems to be getting worse, because in the last 5 years there's been far more arrests for so-called Lese Majeste offences than ever before. This is very dangerous, and my heart goes out to those people who have been locked up, whether they be foreigners or Thais, for no other reason than having an opinion, and in some cases just perceived to have an opinion. This is appalling, and there's no justification for it whatsoever. Shame on Thailand. Shame on Yingluck Shinawatra and her government for continuing to reinforce this brutal law. Okay, that's my rant over.